Hello there. This is An Architect Goes to Law School. Having discussed maintaining your architectural licensure, today in Legislation and Regulation class, we'll talk about professional, disciplinary, and administrative actions. Each jurisdiction's Architectural Licensing Act provides for procedures and penalties for infractions of the rules. These professional disciplinary actions vary between the states, but many of them are similar in processes and possible outcomes. As a matter of civil and sometimes criminal procedure, many states' disciplinary processes consist of certain common elements. These usually include the holding of a hearing, notice of that hearing, and an opportunity for the respondent to answer the charges against them. These elements are expressions of due process. This applies when the government, of which architectural registration boards are components, are about to take someone's property interest. We'll be talking more about due process and civil procedure in upcoming videos. One example of a disciplinary process is found in Texas's Occupation Code, Subchapter H, General Disciplinary Procedures. Section 1051.401 describes the right to a hearing and appeal. Quote, if the board proposes to suspend, revoke, or refuse to renew a person's certificate of registration, the person is entitled to a hearing. End quote. Another example is Connecticut's Section 20-294 of Chapter 390, Architects. Quote, the Commissioner of Consumer Protection or the Board may suspend for a definite period not to exceed 1 year or revoke any license or certificate of authority issued under this chapter after notice and hearing. It's therefore a best practice for an architect or non-registrant to familiarize themselves with their jurisdiction's rules regarding notice and hearing of alleged infractions of the jurisdiction's licensing act. Additionally, some attorneys have experience helping architects defend themselves against claims of having violated their state's licensing act. Once there's been a hearing and opportunity to answer the charges against them, a disciplined party may be subject to various penalties. These include suspension, revocation, or the licensing board refusing to renew an architect license. These penalties obviously only apply to licensed individuals and architecture firms. For both licensed and non-licensed parties, many jurisdictions statutorily permit the licensing board to levy a fine on the individual or firm. These fines may be for what can be considered serious infractions of the rules of practice, or for administrative reasons such as a failure to fully comply with continuing education requirements. Illinois Section 225 ILCS 305/22 lists various grounds for disciplinary action. These include such infractions as negligence, incompetence, or misconduct in the practice of architecture, engaging in dishonorable, unethical, or unprofessional conduct of a character likely to deceive, defraud, or harm the public, and signing, affixing, or allowing the architect's seal to be affixed to any technical submission not prepared by the architect or under the architect's responsible control. Different jurisdictions have different maximum fines. Texas has a $5,000 administrative penalty cap per violation. Connecticut's is $1,000 and Illinois' is $10,000. States with detailed procedures for disciplinary hearings may also have similarly detailed procedures for reapplication for a license after suspension or revocation. Finally, some states have criminal penalties for violations of the architectural practice statutes. Connecticut has one example of this. Section 20-297 reads, quote, any person who knowingly, willfully, or intentionally violates any provision of this chapter shall be fined not more than $500 or imprisoned not more than 1 year, or be both fined and imprisoned. The Secretary of the Board shall aid in the enforcement of this chapter, and shall give any information concerning violations of this chapter which come to his attention to the proper prosecuting authorities for action. End quote. Feel free to comment, ask questions, and suggest topics you'd like me to discuss. Next up is the final Legislation and Regulation class session, where we'll talk about zoning and building codes. Thank you for watching. An Architect Goes to Law School.